thinking and listening here, um, and based on, uh, you know, my life of working and having help and everything. Okay, you talked earlier about most of the teachers have got their, or went and did their training and stuff. Do you have meetings, when you have meetings, do you have the whole staff involved? Do you, and like when you're picking the curriculum or, do you get input from everybody or do you have, where they, I mean, because teachers also, they're the ones that are out there in the field doing the training and know what maybe isn't working or is working or suggestions, or do you have meetings with the teachers like that?
Yeah, so I can speak to that.
And the interventionists, do you, I mean, if they got suggestions, do you consider any of that kind of stuff, or?
So kind of going back to when I started, we haven't just been using Wonders for 3 years. The school district did a pilot of Wonders before I came. So back when you saw the scores that were really, really high, you had teachers that were using Wonders. When I came, we had pockets of teachers that didn't really like Wonders and they had made the decision to try something else. I have a background in curriculum development. I have a license in that. When you allow pockets of people to purchase things separately, one, it drives your cost up, and two, it kind of puts a kink in the scope and sequence of a curriculum, and a kink in the ability for a curriculum to do its job fully. So we had a pocket of teachers using iReady. We had a pocket of teachers that kind of stuck with what they had from before that they really liked, and then we had a pocket of teachers that were using Wonders. So we had spent money 3 separate times on 3 separate things. So when I first came, knowing that we were literally having listened to all the board meetings, read all the board meeting minutes at the end of every single board minute for the past year before I was hired, Tony ended every board meeting. He had Wendy Hetzel put on there. We are tapping into our big lump sum. We're gonna run out of that. That's gonna be gone someday. We need to, so at the end of every one, it was on there. So I knew our district's gonna be going to a referendum at some time. We don't have a whole bunch of money to be right now scrapping and throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We had teachers that were doing a really good job with the Wonders program that they had. That's the one that they had picked before I came. So all I wanted to do was get us on something consistent without having to replace an entire district's worth of materials. We had had success with it. It was highly rated on Ed Reports. So what we did was I caught up the other grade levels that didn't have those materials or hadn't been using them, and got them caught up to training on having coaches to help them use it, because maybe they just didn't use it because they didn't have time to play with it, or got them caught up because they didn't have, they weren't kind of using. We had one grade level that had purchased iReady, but then they had kind of like scrapped it halfway through the year, so we had all those resources that we couldn't get reimbursed for, and they hadn't been used. So what my job was in that first year, trying to fix and get us all on one something. So I got them the training the first year, and I said, you don't feel like you have to pick this up tomorrow and use it. Learn it this year, and next year let's move to trying to everybody use the same thing. What we found with Wonders, what we found with any curriculum, is that you still need to have a supplement. And that's any curriculum that's being created right now. There are pieces of it where there's holes. So by listening to my staff, by listening to the holes, we found we could get Wiley Blevins for a very inexpensive price, and that's what other people in the state, the Mississippi Miracle you hear talked about, they partnered Wonders with Wiley and with Hegarty. So that's what we did. Wiley and Hegarty are very inexpensive programs. We did. Our reading and our language arts scores and our growth of students is going up in that area. Although it takes a little while to get used to those programs too, and those are rather new to us. So it's kind of like this for a while. What's happening right now is, until we're ready to get everybody, because now we purchased the new updated Wonders for the teachers that hadn't had it, what we want to do is we want to get everybody on the same curriculum cycle. So we're not just ordering pieces and pieces. If we're going to change it, we need to let our subscription run out, so we're not double paying for something. We're not at a place where our subscription has fully run out. So what we're doing is we're letting that come to a close we're banking away financial money so that we know that we're gonna have a large curriculum purchase. And then you start a curriculum piloting process, but that's not gonna be this year for us. It's likely not gonna be next year. It's probably gonna be still 3 years out, where we're looking on what we're interested, what does the market have to offer. We have the state that says, there's these 5 programs that we think are really great. There's another state, Maryland, there's another state, Mississippi, that have higher scores overall, and Wonders made the list. So it's all dependent upon a lot of different things. One of them is sometimes which convention you go to and who wines and dines you. We don't have the amount of time to get reimbursed. The state had said, if you move to one of these 5 that we picked and we think are the best, you can get 11% reimbursement. The state can't even cover the 11% reimbursement for the 5 they picked. So had we have scrapped it all, moved to something else last year because you have a few people that want something different, not made an educated decision, we would have, number 1, maybe purchased something that we weren't gonna like, and number 2, spend money that we don't have. So when we make wise decisions, and when you make those decisions sitting at the table, those are kind of the things that go in behind the scenes. So yes, I do listen to my staff. We know what the areas are that we need to fulfill things. We know what kind of programs are up and coming. I go to convention. I bring back information on what I've heard from other districts that are using it, if they like it or if they don't like it. But we're not at a place right now where we're scrapping an entire curriculum. Just like we just purchased a math curriculum. If we're not gonna use it with fidelity, we don't know where the holes are. We have to use it to the best we possibly can to know what it doesn't give our kids, what we need to do. And so, yes, we are going to eventually probably update to something else or move on to a different one, but we're not just gonna do that lightly, and we're not just gonna pick something helter-skelter. We're gonna put time and effort into it so we make a really good decision. And also, right now, the really good benefit is you could take any curriculum and you're gonna find something wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
So just moving to a new curriculum isn't gonna be the save-all. And when you actually look at like the work of John Hattie, where he did all these things to try to figure out what's the best thing, curriculum doesn't even fall to the top of the list. Your ability of your teachers to use the curriculum to give students what they need, regardless of what curriculum, that's what makes the difference. That's what matters. Your teachers are the ones that are gonna be doing it. And they could literally pick up, yes. So you could have a great curriculum, and if you have somebody that doesn't like it and they don't use it, you're dead in the water. So you do have to have kind of staff buy-in. You do have to have everybody understanding that, yes, we're going to eventually, but I also can't be a pushover and change my mind at the drop of a hat and have pockets of people picking up different things, costing extra money, and also not having everybody on board. So it's making smart decisions and trying to do it in a way that I am hearing people, but that people know that the reason we're at a standstill sometimes is because you can't just flip it, flop it, and think that it's gonna work. You have to, part of it too is looking at our data. And one of the areas where I said we have been working on and we're getting so much better at is looking at the data and then teaching our kids what they need. So you can't take a curriculum and say, I'm gonna teach all 27 of these lessons. I'm gonna teach numbers 1 through 10. I'm gonna teach numbers 1 through 10. I'm gonna teach numbers 1 through 10 because it tells me in my book I have to. Because if you test your kids and they all know the numbers 1 through 10, or you test your kids and none of them know it, you have to decide as the teacher. That's your autonomy in your classroom, to decide. Do I do it or do I not? Do I scrap it? And it took a while for my teachers to understand that when I say, use the data, and if you need to scrap something and move on, or if you need to switch something around and teach this first, do that. You're the expert. You're the expert on your students. Teach to what your students need you to teach. If that means you have to change something in the curriculum, or you have to, you get rid of an entire lesson so you can get them moving faster, that's okay. That's what you should be doing. There's no harm in doing that.
But see, my problem, and I guess I'm at the convention. I'll admit what I did some there, talking to hundreds of people about all different things. But I talked to a number of different board members, a bunch of superintendents, some of the WASB people that, like the data thing, to ask them questions. what ideas you got for where we're at in this, and then I also asked them, because, when our curriculum, committee basically got dismantled, I guess, because some of our board members felt that we don't know nothing about it, and all other schools, or the majority of schools of board members, superintendents, and WASB that I talked to there, they do curriculum the way we used to, where everybody was involved. The administration and stuff would bring stuff to the board, the staff would be included, the board's included, and you talk over this stuff to see what might work and what can we spend and everything. And now we're not doing that with curriculum anymore. It's basically, the administration that's doing it, I guess, or I don't know how much is included with the staff, but everybody's supposed, when we did several times with grading, everybody was as a group and the board approved it. And now all that stuff just happens without the board approval. And, I'm not saying that would work either, but we didn't have these things then. The scores like that, and
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to ask too, is everybody, going along with all this stuff? I understand what you're saying about money, but that's also what we as a board are supposed to, hear from everybody, our superintendents, our principals, our staff and stuff to, how can we, or what's everybody's idea, not just one or two, or, and just like, some of them said, we're elected by the community, and when we're getting questioned about this, that's not a fun, time.
Yeah.
Because some people are, they're not, and especially, questions that get number of times, you pass this referendum and here kids are all failing or whatever, and of course I tell them it's not always just this report card, there's a lot of other things
Yeah.
too. But,
And I understand we need to be fiscally responsible when we purchase stuff.
Yeah.
But we also gotta think money isn't everything.
No, but
If you need it, it's gotta be found.
yeah,
But you can't run an elementary school with different teachers doing different things. Everybody's
Oh,
gotta be
no.
the same,
I'm not saying that.
yeah.
And if you're gonna purchase a new one, I would think you would research it with other schools who have that program
yeah,
to see if they like it, what they don't like about it, and go, if you've got 5 of
Yep.
them, it's gonna take some work, but find out
And it's,
Yep.
what's working and what's not.
and what you guys don't see on the back end is that we do some of this stuff. We do, you do surveys, like my first year, we got all together, we kinda shared what we thought. But I primarily found a lot of good data when I would do surveys, because you have teachers that might wanna say something, but they don't really wanna say it in front of a couple other people. So they don't say it out loud at the meeting, so we have the meeting, they don't speak up at the meeting, but then they will put it in a survey. And then I can use the survey to say, hey, not everybody feels that way. It doesn't look like we're at a place where we can make a decision that's this big right now. And we just aren't. And when we had something that's working, yeah, does it suck that we had a referendum and now people are like, where'd the money go? Well, it's operational. We have the taxes that went up. People are mad. Scores went down. They also changed the scores 4 times in the last 3
4
years.
years.
And it tells you right at the top, don't compare them, but what do we do as natural humans?
Well,
Compare them. Nobody cried harder than me on my couch when I looked at the scores and they didn't go up. And I know how hard my teachers have been working. And yes, maybe they don't like wonders. I don't know. You could have 6 people like it. You could have 7 people that don't. It doesn't really matter. You could have a 50-50 split. The point isn't the curriculum. The point is they all did the work. They're all doing the work. And if you have something where it's like, yes, 7 kids bombed the test and the scores went down, that's why when we're telling you these things, we need you to understand, and we need you to understand that, yeah, you can hear from 3 people that they hate the way the school does blank. And the people that are quietly sitting over here not saying anything about it, using it happy, jolly, do. And they're just not saying anything because. And sometimes, what's the hardest thing to admit when you have a curriculum or when you have scores that aren't working? The hardest thing is to say, it might not be the curriculum. It's not that it's the teachers either, but it might not be the curriculum. But it's the easiest thing to say, it must be the curriculum because it's this thing I can grab onto. I can grab onto curriculum. Learning how to use data is a lot harder and it takes a lot longer. All of these other things, learning new teacher practices that we haven't had because the kids were different when we started. That's harder. Those things are harder things. And so you do have some resistance and you do have some, it's gotta be the curriculum. It's gotta be that stupid principle. It's gotta be, it's gotta be, it's gotta be, it's gotta be. And it doesn't always have to be. It's not always.
And every teacher has their own method.
Yeah,
Right.
Yep.
Some are very easily adjustable.
Yep.
Some,
Yep.
teach it this way, and if you don't get it, on they go.
Yep.
Never
And you can-
mind-
yeah.
never mind that the last 40 years,
Yeah.
we've fought with WKCE and this test and
Yep.
that test, and forget about your kids,
Yep.
but we need to test to this,
Yep.
use this test. And I think you guys hit it right on the head, in the fact that you're mapping those kids so you can
yes,
teach to the kid,
yes,
and it's taking time to build that education program up.
yep.
I think that's,
But you're using an outdated testing system from national, state level, wherever it is, and trying to build differently from that.
Did you have something?
Yeah, that's all kind of a key piece of this, though. It's all of the education, the explanation, the reasoning behind all of these scores. There's a lot of intricacy to it. I think it's important to kind of educate the public on a number of different things. First, like what the role of the board is. We're here to verify accountability, but we're not experts on curriculum. That's not what we do. We're just,
Quite frankly, it's very difficult to
right?
judge, and I shouldn't use the word judge, but when you're judging the testing program that keeps changing from the national level against the people that
Right.
we've hired to do this,
Right.
it makes it almost impossible for the
Yeah.
board level.
Yeah, we can't, I think it would be fair on our end for us to be like, asking, okay, why did you choose this
Yeah.
curriculum? What's the advantages? What can we expect, et cetera? That kind of information, I mean, that's what we should have, but
Yeah.
we can't, we're not qualified to choose.
evaluate curriculum.
And,
Right,
and
exactly.
honestly, by having everybody be a little bit accountable to be using the same materials, that's also where you're getting your evidence of what you want the next time. If people aren't even using it, you don't know what holes they are, it's really hard to be like, I liked it or I didn't like it because, or it grew my kids or it didn't grow my kids because. So what we've tried to focus on is where are the pieces that aren't working and what can we do? What are your ideas for fixing those pieces? And taking notes. Even in our new math program, it's taking notes of like, does this not teach it thoroughly enough? Do we need to offer more of fact practice? Do we need to offer more of things? We have those conversations. It's not just like, here, stuff it in your face and do it. We do eventually have to make decisions on things. And for the math, we had two that we kind of had it, there was a math committee, then we had two that it kind of got narrowed down to. We had more that voted for the one, and that's why we went with the one. I honestly think either of the two things would have been better. I mean, either of the two things would have been just as good, I'm saying. Either of them would have been just as good. And by using it, you're gonna find holes in either one. But what we can't have is people like, nope, that wasn't the one I picked, so I'm not gonna do it. Because then you end up with pockets of spaces where you can't have a conversation at the same table speaking to why you don't like it if you don't know, if you honestly didn't try it enough not to know.
And you can't have 4 different.
Yeah,
You need to at
yeah.
least have one.
Yeah, so yes, I mean, I don't care which one we pick as long as they're going to use it and they're going to look at what their kids need and do what their kids need. That's the only thing. The reason that we went with the Wonders one was because they already had a group of people that went through that hard work and that picked it.
So you basically had your staff kind of vote with you on what you went
To
with
keep
and
it or
stuff, or?
scrap it. To keep Wonders.
And Wonders was good
Same with
before
the
you.
math.
Wonders was there before it was there. Wonders was their choice. It was just people didn't adopt to it. People people chose not to do the one the group had picked. So all I did was, let's all do the one that the majority had picked, and then we'll figure out what we want next. But a curriculum cycle is supposed to be 8 years long. So when you do a math curriculum, when you do a reading curriculum, when you do a social studies curriculum, that curriculum is supposed to last you about 8 years, is what the research says, okay? So we got the updated Wonders, we started using those pieces, about 8 years. That's coming to our close now in the next couple years of making a decision. Do we want to keep it? Do we want to move on to something else? And we have looked at other places that have used different things. Last year, Cindy Royer and I at my principals convention, there was a school district that has the exact same demographics that we do, who use the exact same pairings of things that we did. So how can we met with them online and like picked our literacy committee picked the brains of the people to try to figure out, and Mrs. Royer and I picked the brains of these people that were using it to try to figure out, like, okay, how did you do this? This is what we have, so this is what we're using for right now. Are there gonna be pieces that we have to keep on posties that next time we buy one, we want it to have more of this? Yes. We already know that next time we buy it, we want things to have more science and social studies, so that set aside science and social studies time can really be working to the benefit of making our kids use writing during science, writing during social studies. It's not a standalone thing anymore. Research has said it's kind of embedded within the curriculum. Wonders does that a little bit. The newest version of Wonders does it a little bit more because that's the way the research is going. But there are other programs that might do it better. We just have to figure that out. But we're not at a place where we need to invest all of our time right now in trying to figure it out. We need to invest all of our time in looking at what we have and what our students need and answering the call of what the students need.
Making it work with what you've got.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it isn't that we will never change. We will change. We absolutely will change. Everybody does. But
Change is a swear word.
yes, yeah. Yeah. But it also takes that long when you come into a situation or you come into a place. It takes that long for you to all kind of work together and get to a place where you can have those conversations with people and know, like, you can disagree with me. I'm not gonna go after you because you're disagreeing with me, but it doesn't mean I can hear you, but what I respond back to you doesn't always signal that I can make that change for you. I can hear you and I can understand and I can agree even, but that doesn't mean that directly goes into then there's an automatic change. Because I might be hearing from 3 other people one thing, and we all have to kind of make those decisions together.
Right.
Good points.
Okay,
Thanks, Brittany.
thank you very, very much.
And
You
just
wanna
two
say
other really
something?
quick
Go away.
sorry, Kindness Club Lemonade Sale, they always do something, they do a bunch of fundraisers that are like little fundraisers locally to help with stuff at our school. Miss Manthi does a wonderful job, the kids do a great job, and then they always try to do one that's for like thinking outside of our community, and this year they raised $200 for Sea Life Trust Organization, so that's amazing, congratulations to them. And then Kindness Club's gonna have their 3rd annual dodgeball and dance tournament, and Emily Kraskowiak and RVA also set up a poverty simulation that all of our staff are going to on the 21st of February. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We needed to have that discussion.
It was good.
Future agenda items, we have our audit report.
Yep.
February.
He or she will be here. Oh, we should, yeah.
Foundation report, okay.
With the other
Didn't
reports I've kind of left.
Yeah. That sounds good. Foundation report. Great idea.
And then we will have the second
Second
reading
reading
of
of
our policies. Are there any announcements? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for February 25th. Okay, any other business? And then we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Hey.
Awesome, thank you very much, thank you everybody that came.
I'll second that.
Uh,
First did it, Bruce did it.
Wayne.
Wayne moved it.